Anyhow, hey, I've enjoyed being with you so much today. If you want to get a copy of any of this, why, we'll be glad to see that you do. Also, we'll put a copy of the video of that particular picture. If you'd like to get that picture or a copy of it, just call the number on your screen. Appreciate you so much. Goodbye. God bless. Hey everyone, welcome again to our studio. Appreciate you dropping by today. I sure hope you're enjoying it. What we're doing, actually, we started out doing a sketch. We're doing it with a pencil for the most part, and what we're going to do now is put a few black lines on it. And the reason for that is this is going to be a little bit different painting. This will be definitely a guideline, and we're going to use some dry brush on it. But anyhow, come over here and I'll show you. Now normally what I do when I'm doing these, I'll try to do the line farthest away and then pull it back so you won't smear anything, you know. And I missed one right up there, so we'll go right back and get that one. Now I've got a few of those, and I may come back and put some guidelines inside there too. But anyhow, let's do this one. That's the post. Do the post. And now what I'm doing, if you notice I'm putting two lines there. That's the shadow side of the post. Okay, now let's do some rough line. Remember I changed this one a little bit. So I'm going to change this one a little bit. I'm actually doing all the outlines right now. I may later on, if you notice I shift that one just a little bit. And I'm using a triangle here. You can use a ruler or anything, as long as you can get a straight edge with it. All right, let's do this line here. Put the edge on it. Same thing here. Let's do this line. Put the edge on it. Let's do this line. Try to do the edge first. Do the shadow, or the overhang, I guess you'd call it. We've got a lot of lines on this barn. But this is fun. This is a fun way to do, actually it's a fun way to start a painting. And it's just fun drawing, you know. I love to draw, so. Now this roof is a little bit down on that end. So, whoops. I'm going to move it up just a little bit, maybe. Maybe. Now I'm just using a regular permanent marker. And I'm just getting all of the outlines. Now in order to do the other part, we may see if we can find a smaller one and do a little bit of that for you. Okay, that line, I'm going to tweak it up a little bit. This one, I sort of like it, so I'm going to leave it exactly the way it is. Now, one more line. Actually, two more. We'll put a little roof edge on it. Now, if we were going to do this, that probably would work out, but we won't do it with this one. Let's see, I want to make that pretty straight. Let me lay my other pens over here. I want to make that pretty straight. That's pretty straight. Not perfect, but pretty. I'm going to go ahead and fill just a little bit of this in. Now, like I say, again, you don't have to do all of this, but what it will do when you start painting, if you have a finished drawing, I may have told you before, when I used to do a lot of portraits, I would do a complete finished drawing underneath. In other words, if you stripped all the paint off, you would have a black and white portrait underneath. And that was just the way I done it, because if you got a good drawing to start with, your finished product is going to be much, much better. I'm going to go ahead and make this black in here. This will probably be a door, maybe an open door, huh? All right, now what we've got some shadows here, and I'm going to expand on them a little bit. And a little shadow under here. A lot of this you do with the brush. And we got a little hole in the thing here where maybe some rats or something's got in there, or maybe it's just rotten, I don't know. Okay, now what I'm going to do real quickly, I hope we'll do it quickly. I'm going to lay this down. And I'm going to grab this little, hope this one works good. Let's try it and see. Whoops, I don't need that. I'm going to just do a few of these. May not do them all. May not do any of them if it don't work better than that. Now what you can do if you want to, yeah, that pen's working pretty good. If you want to make it really detailed, you can actually put grain and stuff in them, which we won't do with ours. We're just going to, but we'll come down here and put a few little, and you see I'm just taking the tip of the pen and just making a little shadow. I hope you can see it on TV there. And at the bottom then, of course, we've got some bad stuff down here, so we'll just make it there also. And here we'll just go ahead and let's pull a few more lines in here. This old barn's been around a while, hasn't it? Actually, the one I painted's been around a while to start with. Now, we may not use exactly the same colors. All right, I like that. Now, what this does is give you a complete pen and ink finished drawing. You can go back and put a lot of extra detail in it if you want to. There's a bug trying to get on my picture here. I hope you're enjoying this series. We try to do something a little different, and if there's anything you know maybe that you would like, might just let us know. And we'll try to paint it for you. I'm going to go right on here in this dark side. Now, I'm not bothering to make them completely, totally all the way up or down. Maybe there might be a little bit of discrepancy in there somewhere. Let's just see if I can get this top part up here. I wanted to do this for you because this will give you an idea of what you can do actually with a pencil or with just pen and ink if you like to do pen and ink drawings. That's an art within itself. And if you notice, I put some different sized boards in here, and probably when they built the barns, there was probably sawmill lumber, and they probably had different sized boards. For the most part, they were basically the same size, but I'm changing them a little bit here too, if you notice. I'm actually making them, some of them a little bit bigger. And that's okay because we don't want them all to look alike, do we? We'll put a little small one right in there where they patched it probably. All right, now that probably just about finish our line drawing. other than I'm going to go ahead and put a few little shadows in here. And by that, I'm just taking my pen and scrubbing it around and around, and then bringing it down a little bit. And when we start painting, you'll see the advantage that'll really help us get a lot of detail in our painting that we won't have to do with the oil. And if you notice here, I'm making a lot of lines. That'll almost give us our shadow under there. And down here, I'm going to go ahead and put a few little. See, that gives it a little character, doesn't it, you know? This is just to give it a separation from the top. Let you know that the top board is over the top of this board, see? I used to do a lot of pen and ink, so I love to work with pen and ink. And of course, starting out, I couldn't afford the oil paint, so I done a lot of charcoal drawing. And I'm sort of looking up there occasionally, but I'm not trying to copy the picture exactly, but as you can see, it's pretty close to the way the barn was made. Pretty close. I'm going to come in here and do a little more shadow. And all of these lines, if you look close, sort of make up the grain in the wood also. Okay, now I'm going to come on down through here right to the end. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. This is fun doing drawings like this. I love to do this. Most of the time on the show, if you notice, if you've been following us, we just start painting and paint. And that's a wonderful way to do it too. I love to do that too. But once in a while, I just love to draw. I have as I may have told you before, I learned to draw at an early age. Matter of fact, that's the first thing I learned to do, is just sit and draw things, draw objects, cartoons, people. Finally, when I got to where I could get some color, I started out in pastel and watercolor because, first of all, it was cheaper and so easy to work with. But any medium is a little difficult if you do it right. It's not necessarily what medium you use. It's the finished results that counts. And I love watercolor. I love charcoal. I love pastel is great. It's great fun. We may do some of that on show one day. Anyhow, if you get an idea, that's basically almost a finished, well, it's a finished barn drawing. The rest of it around it's not finished, but give you a good idea of what you can do with just a pencil and a pen. And if you wanted to, you could put your trees in here with this too. And I'm just rough sketching in some foliage here. Now normally on there, I'll talk to you about it a little bit more later. Normally on the show we use about eight colors. And of course I've told you before that about 4 or 5 colors you can have every color in the rainbow. So, but this week I've got one extra color on there, and I'll show it to you. Well, I may not get to it this week, but I'll show it to you next week if we don't. Now, that's basically about all we're going to do pen-wise. I might come underneath here and do just a little work. Just a little. By the way, when I used to train drawing, I would sit around and just do hatch marks. Sort of like I'm doing now, only just by themselves. This trains your hand to make straight lines, or helps you to make straight lines. I'm going to lay this down just a second. I'm going to turn this sideways. I'm going to go in here and just put a few lines. And if you see what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to keep them in line with the roof. I'm going to do the same thing here. This is a little more difficult because it's laying flatter, and it has to come out that way a little more. I want it a little darker right in this area. In other words, this tin comes over the top of this tin. Then we're just doing this freehand because I just want a few lines in there. Now let's go back and do this other one. And I'm right at the edge here. This gives you a little more perspective too, if you can see. I'm making it a little bit darker. And I'm going to go back to the top just for a second. Now most of that's freehand, and you can see it gives you a little more perspective if you can see. Back to the top. I'm going to do a little bit right here. I'm going to go this way to start with so I can establish where I want to go to. Okay, now that'll give us a little more perspective on that top too, see? Same here. All right. I want to put a few little boogaboos right in here. Not too many, but just a few. Mainly to outline those boards a little bit better. Now you could go back in with a bigger pen, but I'm just taking this little pen and making a few of them stand out a little bit. Not all of them, just a few of them. You see, and that makes it a little bit with a little bit more detail in it, see. Okay, I've got a few minutes. I wanted to do a few more right here. This is the light side of the barn. And when we paint it, this will be our light side. This will be our shadow side. And I'm roughing up the lines a little bit, if you notice. In other words, instead of keeping them 100% straight and even, and you probably would have a little greenness or something down at the bottom here. Now these lines, I almost lost them, didn't I? I've got a minute, so let me really quickly go over a few of these lines, just a little bit. I'm going to do them freehand. Okay. I think that's got them good enough. Okay, now that's a pen and ink drawing, you see, and it's already got the perspective on it. We may put the gates and stuff on. I don't know about that, but just that as is, I think would make a beautiful painting. Well, I tell you what, I've enjoyed being with you today, and I hope you've enjoyed this. This is a little different from what we normally do, but I hope you enjoyed. We love every phase of art, so anyhow, hope you can come back next week and be with us, and we'll start putting some color on it. Okay? If you want to get a copy now, just call the number on your screen. We'll put a copy of the video with it. God bless you. Goodbye. See you next week. Hello everyone. So glad you could stop by today. We started a little picture here. Actually, we've been drawing today.